So we're going to go through a couple of different things today. Some of them we're just quickly going to jump over some of the big things here and there, and some I'm going to walk you through. So the first thing we're going to start with is WordPress. We're going to borrow the connectors for this morning so that we can look through all those different pieces together. That being said, each of the WordPresses for all your individual groups look slightly different. And so don't be surprised if something's not exactly where you're used to seeing it or slightly in a different spot. I was like, they all get just a little bit different here or there. So if you're trying to get into the back end of any of our WordPresses, the first thing you're going to do is go to whatever this page is. So again, we're going to borrow SCAD Connector, and you're going to go in, and to actually access the back end of the site, you're going to do /WP admin. So WordPress admin, you are all considered admin to sort of get into your individual groups, and you all have your own login with your own names. You're not having to share anything. No one from the copy team has to borrow anyone else's. They're all in there together. So then that way we know exactly who's looking at whatever, and you only need to worry about the things that you're playing with. So your username will either be your SCAD email, or it will be some combination of your name. Most of it is either just uppercase or your name dot your last name. And so mine on here is Dina. Your password, and you were at first sent a password. You're welcome to keep that if you want, and I can go back in and send you a reset link. So if you ever forget it or something's acting funky, I can always help you from there. But I'll also show you once we go in, if you want to reset it to something that you remember a little bit easier, that's totally fine too. Once you're in here, you're going to say, remember me, I'm a human, everything to show that you are who you say you are. And then for anyone who's used to seeing it, this is our big, beautiful WordPress. So WordPress is a lot of different pieces, and they all sort of function together in a couple different ways. So best way that I can explain it is that there's a few areas over here that we look primarily in. We're going to touch on a couple other things that some individual people might use more than others, but primarily y'all are going to live within the post page, our media page, and our regular pages. So everything on our normal dashboard is going to give you some blanket info right at the start. You can see for SCAD Connector, this has their analytics, so you can see how many viewers they're getting, how often they're there, how long someone's sitting on one of our pages. You can get any of that information, as well as some things like what was most recently published, how many things we have to glance, all sort of general information right there. Again, this looks a little different site per site, so don't be surprised if it looks a little different for yours compared to this one, but all that information's there in case you ever want to find it. Up here at the top is also your profile, so this is where you're going to go in if you want to edit your name, if you need to edit anything about your password, you want to go in and add your website, any of that information gets to live within here. So now that we've touched on a little bit of the basic stuff, once you get in to sort of know where you're operating, the 3 pages we're going to look at are posts, media, and pages. And all of you will be in some combination of all of these. But if you tend to be a little bit more on the writing side, you're going to live a little bit more often in posts. If you tend to be on the visual side, you'll live a little bit more in media. And then if you were someone like one of our designers or our editor-in-chiefs or general manager, you might live a little bit more in pages where we're doing some general stuff. So we're going to go one by one through some of those pieces. So our very first page for posts is going to be where all of our articles or our content lives. So within here, you're going to see all of our recent articles. You're going to see a little bit of information about them. So you can see the authors right here. You can see what categories they're in and what information's here. You can do some quick editing, and you can add a new one right here if you're adding in your own content. Most of the groups have you add in yours before Copy Editor comes behind you. So you would go here and be able to do that. I'm going to show you a little practice one that we're working on today so that you get an idea of what that looks like. But again, please feel free to stop me in between if you've got extra questions. Here we go. Okay. So this page effectively operates like a Word document. You're able to just copy and paste information into here. You'll see at the top, it has an area that specifically will be the title. And once you put the title in, the site will know what the title is, where to put it, and it will create a URL over here based on whatever that title is. So it'll be a little bit easier to find. You can go in and change this if you want it to be something different, but we almost never do because we don't need an extra step when we're going through all of this. It will also automatically put in the author. for whoever is on the WordPress currently. So if you are logged in, which you should be, it'll automatically pop up with your name. Once you do that as well, you can click on the author and click down into anyone else. Most of the groups also have a connector staff, district staff, radio staff. So if someone's a brand new contributor or they haven't done something with you before, they're able to do that. If you have co-authors, so two people are working on the same article, we tend to usually put them under staff, and then we'll specifically go in and put here where I have photo by Catherine Medina, the same information written by this author and this author. So on the occasional times that happens, that gives you a little bit of information. This is essentially split up into two areas. Right over here where the content lives is everything that will actually be on the site. And so this is what will be ultimately popping up with the pictures, the words, the layout, all of that. And you can go through and change any of that. I go, I want some more space in between here. I can add a couple more. You can see type or choose this block, or this little plus button will allow you to put in other pictures, embed things from other areas. So we'll talk about how you can embed social media posts like Twitter/X, Instagram, or anything like that. You can throw in videos, you can put in heading, you can put in galleries here. All sorts of different pieces are here in case you need them. And it gives you lots of options from there. So essentially all of your content lives over here on the left. On the right, and we've started to touch on it a little bit, is essentially everything the site uses to know where this information goes and what to do with it. So you'll see on here a couple pieces at the start. You'll see things like the visibility and the publish. And so this right now is in a draft. You can see it right here where it says save draft. And so this is not live on our site. I'm not going to put it live on our site because it's just our training one. But if you want to, you can do that. You can either hit publish immediately, or if you click on it, you can see there's a little calendar on here with a time and a date. And so you can preset things ahead. Unless you are our copy team, you likely won't need to actually publish any of your work. Someone will come in behind you and make sure that the content looks right, photos are the way they're supposed to be, and then everything's good, and then they can publish it. For specifically our copy teams, this is exceptionally helpful, especially if you are breaking up your week and you're saying, hey, I'm only really looking at things twice a week. You can say, hey, I'm going to do all that work then, and then publish it at later times staggered throughout the week so that you're not having to log back in essentially just to hit publish. So once you do that, you either can hit publish now, it'll go live, or you can preset that ahead. So then that way you can go in and change anything about it. This default template just means that it's always going to be set under the system for all of our posts. This is the standard that we do. If for any reason we were building something different, you and I would likely sit down and we built that together. And then you can see in here the URL so that you know exactly where it'll go on the site when it's done. As you scroll down a little bit from here, you'll see things like the categories. So from here, you'll be able to figure out any of the areas that you want the site to know to put it within. So say this is something like a movie review, that might go under arts and entertainment reviews. And you can click on as many of these as you like, and it will know to put them into all of those subcategories. So that way you're able to distinguish as much or as little about that as you want. I always recommend you put it in at least one or two categories. So then that way the site starts to know what to do with it. And especially if you're building something consistent like a column, it helps it to be able to know where to put that later on. From here as well, you'll see tags. And so tags are the site's way of knowing what information this is attached to other than words that are specifically within the title. And so essentially, once you put this on, it will know that there's some details here within the title. Traffic accident, Bergen Hall, anything like that, it will be able to sort of know, hey, this is what's going on. If someone Googles car accident, SCAD district, it will pop up under that. That being said, there may be parts of this that are pertinent to the article that don't show up in the title. And so you can see on here something like Carlitos, the restaurant that it happened in front of, emergency response, or even this student's name who was quoted. So Jessica might be a great example for us of something that we would want to have as a tag. And so if Jessica or any of her friends or family go on and they're specifically looking for her being quoted in this, it won't know to pull it from the title. But if we add it as a tag, now the site will know to be able to go, oh, this person is mentioned in here. So we want to be able to find it. I usually recommend somewhere between 5 and 10 tags, and each group does it a little bit differently. If that's something that the writer will put the content in, or if the copy editor will put it in, or some combination of the two. but adding in a couple pieces here or there always sort of helps with that. And then the last thing we're sort of looking at right here is our featured image. So this is the image that's going to go onto the homepage with the article. Now you can see within this article, there is a photo here within this page. This photo is only going to pop up once you click onto that content. If I were to publish this one like this with no featured image, it essentially is just the title on the website. There's no visual to go with it. And so in that same way, if I put a featured image there and it doesn't match with the content that's on that page, that means that when you click into it, that featured image goes away. Every group has slightly different rules on how they want to do that, but know that this featured image area and any images within the article don't talk to each other. Sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes that means you got to add them in later. So that's a little bit about what the posts specifically look like. All of your groups sort of talk a little bit about how much information you want to go in there, and know that regardless, once you're doing this, 2 to 3 people might be able to look on here and make sure that everything's right. So no one person is fully in charge of every part of it getting right. We're going to go back to the post page for just a second. Yes, I'm okay leaving it without saving my changes, but thank you for telling me, WordPress. The other thing that's very important is you can see on here whether something's in the draft. And if someone is editing this live, it will say who is within this article. If you happen to be on WordPress at the same time as someone else and you see someone editing an article, please be aware you cannot click into that article and look at it without taking it over and essentially kicking the other person out. Especially for people that have multiple people on their copy team where you might be overlapping some of these articles. That's really important because if you kick that person out, it takes away all the things that they just did from the last save. And so we want to make sure that there's nothing like that that accidentally overlaps each other. Does anyone have any big questions on posts at the start? No? Excellent. Okay. So now we're going to go a little bit into media. And so media is essentially where all visuals within our entire site lives. And so you can see in here, there's primarily a lot of pictures. You can also see as we scroll down a little bit, there'll be some documents, there'll be some videos, essentially anything that is visually related. Here are some documents, all live within the media tab. Media is actually really smart. When I do things like add this photo from the last article into the article itself, it will automatically put it into the media tab. But if you're also doing a ton of visuals, say you're doing a photo essay and you have 30 pictures, it might be a little bit frustrating to try and put all of those onto that article at the same time. I can drop them all into media and then go in one by one and pick out the ones that I like. It's totally fine if there's extra pieces in here and you can put them in as big as you need to. You will not overload the site with media, so you are welcome to add in as much as you need. Once you click into an individual media, so again, like this picture, you can see on here everything about it that you might need to know. So when that photo was uploaded, who put it in, where it goes or where it's connected to. So then that way you know what photos or visuals go with what article, as well as some general dimensions, things like that. You're able to do some small editing and things like that within here. I don't recommend it. I was like, you're able to do a little bit of cropping, but shy of that, this won't let you do much. And so try and make sure that the visuals that you are putting in are as wrapped up as you can. Everything within here lives here and sort of connects from there. So then that way you've got any option that you need sort of under that. Has anyone got any questions about media? It's a little bit easier than posts. No? Okay, y'all are rolling through it. I appreciate it. Last one that we're just generally going to touch on is pages. And this one I will actually show you as well on SCAD Connector's page, what I mean by pages. Yes, we'll leave this one too. Thank you. So you could see within here, these were all of our content. This is all the articles that we're doing recently with our visuals or media. But there's other pages that the site operates within that don't specifically live on the homepage. And so what I'm talking about is anything like what we would have up here. Things like our awards page, contact us, a stat page, how to get involved. All of that falls within our pages. And so these are pages that have been set up or that you would set up and that live there without getting updated regularly through our regular content. And so you can see on all of these, there's some similar ones, and then there's some different ones group to group. I'm going to pick on our awards page because that's a little bit easy to showcase. Once you click into this page, it is set up exactly the same way, though, that any of our post pages are. And once it loads, Here we go. Excellent. So you can see on here, it's the same style of almost like a Word document where you're able to type anything up, edit it, go through it from there. You can see all the same page information, how it's public, where the visibility is, all the URLs. These are URLs that sometimes we would want to change, especially if, say, you have a chunky title at the top where it's like all the awards from SCAD Connector and SCAD Magazine that we have ever won. That's a little bit heavy to put on the main header on the main page, and so you might shorten that down to just awards, anything like that. These also have the ability to have featured images, but because they're usually through an upper navigation, through either our search bars or navigation on the side or header navigation, we don't usually have any visuals that have to go with that. But same information in here, and these are very, very editable. So you can see in here, this one's a standard template, but you also can go in and set different ones or build out different things so that if you want others to sort of showcase better on the staff page or to link through to other places, say something like SCAD Radio might want a podcast page that shows, hey, you can come listen to us on Apple Music, Spotify, all these other places. It might be helpful to showcase a couple different formats and templates. Now, granted, you won't really need to touch pages unless you were specifically asked by your editor-in-chief to help with that, or if you're part of the design team that's doing something like a website redesign, or you're just doing some of our general setup for things like new staff pages. But it's good to know what's here, and especially if you need any information, it kind of all lives within here, which is always helpful to find. Excellent. So that's the main thing of what we use sort of over here on the side. Don't be surprised as well, you probably see a few more on here than what you see on yours. That's totally fine. I'm just an admin, so I have back end of a couple of our plugins to make sure that they all run and operate smoothly. But you're able to see a lot of things in here that are able to help. Primarily, these three are where we're going to live, or the dashboards to be able to get all your information. Ultimately, WordPress is very easy to use once you understand what you're looking for. And because there's all a little bit different or kind of hidden through backdoors in a couple different places, please feel free to ask questions, lean on some of the other editors who have done this before, let them know ways that you can help or ask about anything. But ultimately, it's supposed to be pretty easy for everyone to be able to access and play with at the same time.